Okay, so thinking outside of the box, I've already unboxed everything so that we can just quickly pick them up, and we're going to work from left to right. Now, on the left, you'll see a whole bunch of papers, and generally when people get a motherboard, they'll take these papers and they'll throw it away. Now, I wouldn't do that because sometimes there are competitions, there are Steam vouchers that you can find, so just look through them before you throw them away. But if you are building a PC for the first time or are just unsure, the user's guide as well as the quick installation guides are really cool features to be able to make sure that you are doing the right thing when building. Right next to that, we've got a whole bunch of cables from eSATA all the way down to a thermistor. Now, I wasn't able to turn this on as I mentioned, but some of these motherboards do not actually post if they don't have a thermistor because it needs to read the ambient temperature inside of your chassis. So that thermistor, very important, but obviously don't know. Next, we have got the NVMe screws to keep the NVMEs in place, and right next to that we have got a really cool addition, and I'll be honest rather, in that this has got a Phillips and a flat, and I hardly have ever seen this inside of a motherboard kit. I have seen it, but it's very rare, so nice of MSI to include this, and I've checked and it works on every single screw in the motherboard. Right next to that, we have got a chassis sticker, or a sticker for the front of your chassis. It's kind of metallic in its makeup, but it's a really cool addition to be able to put on the side, front, or wherever you want on the chassis. Now, if I've ever bought a motherboard, when I've bought a motherboard or I've been given a motherboard, there was a game that I used to play. I'd take the CD and I'd throw it as far as I could. Why? Because I don't have a CD drive, and I honestly don't know anybody that still uses a CD drive. So here's where I want to give big props to MSI for including a USB drive. Now, I've checked already. This has got all the drivers for the motherboard, or at least the drivers that were up to date when this motherboard was produced. But what this does is it leaves no room for you guessing, is this the right driver for my motherboard, because they've put them all on there. So really well done to MSI. This is such a great addition to this, and you basically get a free USB if you don't need the drivers, if you know what you're doing. Next, we have got a Wi-Fi receiver, and that basically just plugs into the I/O, and if you want, you can use Wi-Fi on this board, or you can just use RJ45. Next to that, we have got stickers if you want to decorate the motherboard or your chassis, and next to that, we've got more stickers, and this is just to be able to, sorry, upside down, be able to put it on the fans or on the RGB or on your SATA, just to label the different cables if you are trying to find a cable, because obviously when cables do come out of your chassis, you might not know which is which, so that's just there to help you identify them. So again, cool addition. Last but not least, we've got a little brush that MSI has given, and I wouldn't be using this on the DIMMs, or I wouldn't be using this on the CPU socket, because they can bend easily, but this, I imagine, is just to clean the major parts of the motherboard in order to keep it dust free. So well done to MSI. And lastly, we have got a motherboard, which is kind of the most important part, which we'll go over shortly. So let's start off with the design, and I'm going to go over some of the specs while we go through to the design, because they do complement each other. So